Hi guys, this is DJ Slope from Slope's Game Room, and today we're going to be looking at Disney's 17th animated movie, which is 101 Dalmatians. One great big wonderful motion picture. First released on January 25th, 1961. 101 Dalmatians is the 1961 animated movie about 101 Dalmatians, adapted by the book called 101 Dalmatians back in 1951. So straight off the bat, Walt Disney was quite a big fan of that original book by Dodie Smith, and he put one of his best men on the case, Bill Peet, to adapt it for the movie. And Walt Disney himself actually stepped back a little bit and got himself a little bit further away off this project. So how did the film turn out? Straight off the bat, I'm going to tell you right now, I love 101 Dalmatians. I'm a big fan of this film. Now, Walt, on the other hand, wasn't the biggest fan of this new style that Disney was going for. And as you may have noticed, this film had a very sketchy sort of look compared to its previous films like Sleeping Beauty and Snow White and whatnot. And there was a very good reason for this. 101 Dalmatians was the first film in the entire Disney canon that used this new effect, and it was called the Xerox effect. But what is the Xerox effect, I hear you ask? Right, okay, so before 101 Dalmatians movies, what they used to do in animation is everyone had sort of several jobs. And some of those jobs were the original guys that drew the drawings, obviously with all their guidelines in and everything else. That would get sent over to someone else, the inkers and painters, that would put it onto cells. And then obviously it went on again and got painted before it got put on. That was just some of the jobs, but 3 very important ones. Now, up to this point, Disney's films were getting more and more expensive, and sadly, they weren't returning back from the box office as well as films like, say, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In fact, it got so bad that Roy Disney, Walt's brother, actually tried to convince Walt to shut down animation completely. See, at the same time, this was when Walt Disney was doing a lot of live action stuff as well, and that's where they thought they wanted to go with it. Walt didn't want any of this. He loved the animation side of it. So to meet in the middle, they actually found a process that Walt Disney wasn't really the biggest fan of. What it would do is those original guys that drew those original pictures, like I said, all those guidelines and extra lines that you see in there, they took that, they cut out the inkers and photocopied it straight onto the cells. This completely cut out the middleman per se, and it actually resulted in the first of this Xerox process. And unfortunately to those guys that were cut out in the middle, I really like this animation. I don't think I'd want it for every single one of my Disney movies, but it works brilliantly with 101 Dalmatians. Anyway, enough about how it was made. What's the film about? Now, this film brilliantly was set in London, and it's got that over-the-top Cockney accent that they love putting on for English people. You know, we never sounded like this, but it's brilliant, you know, the Bert from Mary Poppins style of accent that they give.
Oh, what, ladies and gents, comical poem, suitable for the occasion, extemporized and thought up before your very eyes. All right, here we go.
So like I said, the story is in London. You've got this little flat, and inside you've got Roger and his dog Pongo. Roger is an enthusiastic songwriter, and he's going through a bit of a dry spot. Both Roger and Pongo both don't have a mate, or as the movie puts it, they're both bachelors. And Pongo's sitting by the window thinking he needs to get his pet a mate. Looking out the window, you see the first reason as to why this film took a really big step from those old school Disney movies. You're looking at it, feels very much like an American sitcom. He sees all these ladies walking their dogs, and it's quite funny because they look very similar to each other, and it gets a good laugh, even nowadays. And he finally thinks he's spotted one. And thankfully, looking here, yes, there's a little female Dalmatian going on as well. Lucky him. So to try and get the two to meet, this very clever dog changes the time on one of the clocks and convinces his pet Roger to take him out for a walk down the park, which is exactly where the female and her bitch were headed. So long story short, they get down the park. They're not interested at first, but it's got some brilliant comedy in this area where you can get some really good animation where the dog's pulling along Roger and they end up falling in a river, and they hand over a hanky to each other. They end up falling in love instantly, you know, because obviously it's Disney. And before you know it, the very next few seconds, you're seeing them getting married. And as the camera pans down, it looks like the Dalmatians are getting along quite well too. A very obvious but perfect opening to a Disney movie. So the couple gets a new place, perfect for a new couple starting out, and after one very good labour scene which Simpsons parodied brilliantly, they eventually give birth to 15 puppies. Everything is awesome with Roger, his wife Anita, Pongo, and his sort of dog wife Perdita. And then obviously we get the villain show up, and oh my god, if you want to see an excellent how to do it villain in a Disney movie, Cruella de Vil ticks every single box as to why I think she's probably one of the very, very best over the top but works for a modern audience villain. I love Cruella de Vil, and yeah, what you're looking at is Cruella de Vil in Disneyland Paris making me bark like a dog. She's an old friend of Roger's wife, Anita. Roger has never been a fan of her, and this is when he goes up into the attic where he's making his music, and he comes up with the incredible song, basically the theme tune, Cruella de Vil. So like I said, Cruella de Vil is an old friend of Anita's, and she's obsessed with fur. You can see where this is going.
Another activist, Maguire.
Activist. Yes. Activist, yes.
Okay, maybe not. So she obviously wants to get hold of these 15 puppies. She never explains why she wants them, and she gives quite a nice little check over to take all 15 away. Roger, being the man of the house, puts his foot down and steps up to Cruella de Vil and says, no, they're not for sale. There's this really good, awesome bit of back and forth between Cruella de Vil and Roger and Anita. Eventually she slams the door and walks away with that amazing silhouette. Now, after a small amount of time, Cruella de Vil gets a plan. These two henchmen turn up pretending to be from the gas company. Sorry. The electric company, and eventually break in, take the 15 puppies, they're gone, and nobody knows where they are. Apparently, not even Scotland Yard. Must have been a pretty quiet day for the Metropolitan Police. So, even with the police not being able to find the puppies, it seems that all is lost. It's a bit of a broken home, it gets very upsetting, and the dogs decide to take it into their own hands to find their puppies. One night when they're on one of their long walks, they decide they're going to do the Twilight Bark. Now, I'm going to hold up a minute here. I love this section of the movie so much. The Twilight Bark. As a kid, I mean, obviously I was very, very young at the time. I used to think this is exactly how dogs used to deal with their problems. It was so exciting. And when we used to take our dogs out for a walk in the park and I heard them barking, I'm thinking, oh my god, they're doing the Twilight Bark. I love this part of the movie so much. And what it is, they're standing up and they're barking around and they're trying to spread the word to find the 15 stolen puppies. They eventually pass this message on, and it goes over to Sergeant Tibbs, a cat, the Colonel, a big scruffy sort of dog, and then a sergeant who's this big horse. They've got their own little operation thing going on, obviously. And they find out that the puppies have been taken away in, you guessed it, an old abandoned house owned by Cruella de Vil. Scotland Yard obviously didn't think about looking there. But what I want to add is they didn't actually find 15 puppies. When Sergeant Tibbs and the Colonel and the Sergeant were all looking into the window, they actually found a crazy amount of puppies just everywhere, and then the two henchmen sitting down looking after the puppies drinking beer. Don't you love old school Disney? Anyway, it's time for me to get excited again because they report back via the Twilight Bark, and then Pongo and Perdita find out about it and obviously run away to try and save their puppies. While they make their journey to the de Vil Manor, the Colonel and the Sergeant take it upon themselves to get all of the puppies, not just the 15, all of the puppies escaped out of the house. There's a bit of an over-the-top scene that's not too Tom and Jerry-esque, but they end up eventually escaping from the stupid henchmen. Think about the bad guys from Home Alone, you get a good idea. And eventually, obviously, Pongo and Perdita meet up with the puppies, and the rest of the film is very much about them trying to get back home while Cruella de Vil and the henchmen are chasing after her. And also, Cruella de Vil's got this awesome car where she's chasing. Cruella de Vil is just such an awesome villain. So good. There's this extremely awesome scene where they go into an old warehouse and the dogs are playing around and there's some soot, and it realises that they sort of disguise them from being Dalmatians and they get all black and they look a bit more like Labradors. They decide they're going to put this on all of the, 101 dogs all together, and they go past Cruella de Vil, who's doing this incredible reused over and over animation where she's just sliding across the screen really sinisterly. I love that bit. And eventually they end up getting onto the back of a truck, going back. Cruella de Vil realises what is going on. She's literally ramming into this guy who's got no idea what's going on. He's literally just doing his work. He ends up smashing her off to the road. She falls down this big cliff. Her incredible car just gets torn to shreds. You hear that incredible line, "Crazy woman driver," which is actually a pretty good representation of a lorry driver in England.
The staff of Slopes Gaming would like to add that he does not agree with the crazy woman driver guy and thinks that all drivers of race, sex and age are just as good as one another.
Anyway, Cruella de Vil gets defeated by getting smashed off a cliff, but she survives. The Dalmatians manage to get back to their home and everything is groovy. The parents decide to keep all 101 Dalmatians and actually open up a Dalmatian plantation, which, if you didn't know, is the most expensive piece on the Disney Monopoly board right after Pride Rock. And boom! The end. I think it goes without saying I'm a massive fan of 101 Dalmatians. Even for people that aren't big fans of Disney as a whole, like Jamie Howlett, the guy who created the Gorillas and Tank Girl, this is the only Disney film that he would let his son see. 101 Dalmatians, I think, is probably the perfect old school Disney film that everyone would watch. And I don't just mean a family film. I think grown-ups would happily go off and watch this film on their own, even if they're not big Disney fans like me and hopefully yourself. I just think it really, really fits. It has a sort of old school sitcom feel that it doesn't, other than the obvious timeline where the film is set, really age at all. So if it's been a while or you've never seen it for some reason, go and watch 101 Dalmatians. The sequel's not too bad either, but whatever. Enough about the film, let's go look at the games.
Okay, so we've got a few games to talk about here. Firstly, we got this game, and for the very first time on Slove's Game Room, I'm going to be covering a Sega Pico game.
A child's mind is like a sponge, absorbing everything.
Middle-aged men who want to be teenage girls next.
So make it the right things with Pico. It turns TV into your kid's first computer and turns on the power of their imaginations. With Storybook software, turn the page and images come alive on TV. Kids learn numbers, music, reading,
D-O-G dog.
and more. Most kids spend 3 hours a day glued to TV. Pico makes it a smart for you.
Math Antics with 101 Dalmatians. Now obviously it's an easy as hell selection of mini games. Like for instance you got ones where you're just counting Dalmatians. But you can't knock it for that. It does exactly what it says on the tin. And as a kid growing up, and I mean a really young kid growing up, I'd have been so happy with this game. The animation's good and the chiptune music is reminding me excellently of the fantastic movie. And what's better is it actually follows the storyline quite well too. Check out this bit, there's even a sort of Pac-Man clone here. Again, it's extremely easy. This part is brilliant. After you've covered all the puppies in that sort of soot, you have to get them onto the truck, but hide when Cruella drives past.
70, 71, 72.
And just looking at that, haven't they recreated the animation of the movie pretty brilliantly there? Eventually you make it home and you're left with a 101 Dalmatians version of Mario Paint. Okay, so it's not as good as that, but still, it's pretty good. Okay, so next up we have 101 Dalmatians on your CD-ROM, CDR, trying to pretend I know on that PC where that CD goes. Sorry, I don't know what came over me there.
A crime has been committed.
Yeah, puppy.
And you can help solve it. You're part of the story as you sing along. Learn new words.
When you rescue someone, you save them. Hurry, Pongo.
You follow clues.
This way.
And bring the puppies home. Disney's animated storybook 101 Dalmatians on CD-ROM. Once again, the magic of Disney begins with a mouse.
So, the animated storybook series are these animated storybook games that are really, really good. They started with The Lion King back in 1994, and after we got Winnie the Pooh, Pocahontas, Toy Story and Hunchback, we finally got this. So what's it like? Just look at it. These games always looked great. They give off a vibe of maybe, I don't know, like a Sam & Max Hit the Road or a Secret of Monkey Island, but you know, obviously for kids.
Hello, my name is Pongo. The sleepyhead is my pet, Roger.
Unfortunately, Pongo, the main dog that you hear all the way through the game, doesn't really sound like the original voice actor Rod Taylor. It's a jarring thing that anyone will understand when you watch a sequel to something and they don't have that original voice actor back. It sort of throws you out a little bit, but with that aside, the game is really, really good. And just like the Pico game I mentioned earlier, this game has loads of mini-games thrown in as well, albeit for a slightly older audience. Here's a bit right at the beginning of the game where Pongo's looking outside at the dogs that look like their owners, and what they've done is turn it into a pairs game. You know what? That's fine by me. The game follows the story brilliantly well, although it does deviate here and there. For instance, like this curveball section that you're seeing here.
Hello, my name is Purdy. The lovely human with me is my pet, Anita. Anita was lonely and unhappy. Cruella de Vil made her work all the time, designing fancy clothes.
What follows is a very Disney sequel quality sort of song from Cruella herself, explaining her desire for a Dalmatian fur coat.
I have to have that, all there is to that. Animals were meant to be a matching coat and hat. A diamond ring's a lovely thing, but still I would prefer a full-length, lovely, rare Dalmatian fur.
It lends itself well within this game. I mean, I'm happy it's not in the original movie, but this, along with the few other songs that you hear in there, for instance, like the Henchmen have their own song as well. Like I said, it works well with the game. So all in all, the game is really quite good, and without a doubt, definitely worth checking out. And that goes for all of the animated storybooks. Heck, there's even an option at the beginning of the game where you can just literally sit back and watch it rather than having to play through. So you sort of get to see 101 Dalmatians done from a slightly different perspective. Okay, so good so far. What we got next? Okay, so I'm not going to be covering 102 Dalmatians Puppies to the Rescue, as this is an animated loose video game adaptation of the live-action sequel of the live-action remake of the original animated movie. In other words, it's not based on the film that we're discussing here. And obviously I'm not going to be talking about the worst PlayStation 2 game ever, according to Cad Icarus. If you want to check out the review on that game, and I highly suggest you do, click the annotation or click the link in the description. 101 Dalmatians Escape from the DeVille Manor. This game, sort of like the animated storybook, is another sort of point and click adventure. And although it does seem to follow that original Disney animated movie, I'm sorry to say it doesn't. In fact, it's an animated version of the live action movie. It's a cool little game, but like I said, it's not following the movie we're discussing here. And where does that leave us? Well, obviously you've got the obvious inclusion of the 101 Dalmatians in the Kingdom Hearts games, and this is quite a cool little addition. You actually have to go around the entire game finding all 99 puppies. You don't actually get to see them, but you see a pop-up showing you which ones you've found. And just like everything in that game, this looks really, really good. And at long last, we have the Tiger LCD game.
Scare you, no evil thing will. To see her is to take a sudden chill. Cruella, Cruella de Vil.
So yeah, in the world of 101 Dalmatians, that's a decent amount of video games. You got a sequel, you got a TV show, you got a live action remake, a sequel to that live action remake, and there's even a new live action remake being made. 101 Dalmatians ain't going nowhere. It's a brilliant story, and looking at the games related to the movies, I think we've got a pretty good selection here.
The world was such a wholesome place until Cruella, Cruella de Vil.
Hey guys, thanks for watching my review on 101 Dalmatians. If you want to see the next one or the last one, click the links that you see here. If you want to see my videos early, as well as some exclusive ones, click on the Patreon link that you see in the middle of the screen. This is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.